Hello and welcome to Investment Insight, your clear take on the markets. Let's get started.
Thanks for having me. I'm really looking forward to this one.
Yeah, me too. So today we have a really fascinating mission for this deep dive.
Mm-hmm.
We're breaking down two massive global shifts that, on the surface, they sound like really complex geopolitics,
Mm-hmm.
but they are actually creating huge ripples in the global economy and the markets right now.
They really are.
And look, if you are a beginner when it comes to global economics or you're just starting to track this stuff, understanding these two specific undercurrents is going to give you a massive edge.
Absolutely, because if we look at recent analysis from various think tanks and supply chain briefs, there are two distinct stories playing out. First, we're looking at Ukraine,
Right.
which is transforming in real time. It's moving away from just being a war-torn aid recipient and becoming a major tech and defense supplier for Europe.
Which is wild to think about.
It is. And the second topic we're diving into is the U.S.-India economic relationship under President Trump. According to the data, we're seeing this really fascinating dual strategy play out. It balances short-term leniency on global oil with some very, very strict long-term boundaries on trade and technology.
Yeah, and I want to promise you listening right now, we are going to keep this approachable. We'll use clear, everyday analogies. We're not going to bog you down in crazy technical jargon.
Exactly. We'll keep it grounded.
Oh, and one quick note before we jump in. Since we're touching on some political policies today, we just want to make it clear that we're analyzing these neutrally.
Right.
We're not taking sides or endorsing any administration's viewpoints. We're just reporting on the ideas in the source material so you can understand the economic impact.
It's just the data.
Exactly, just the data. So let's jump right into part one, Ukraine's evolution.
Mm-hmm.
To give you a mental picture of what's happening here, I want you to imagine a friend that you financially supported after, say, a major disaster. Their house burned down.
Right.
You help them just to survive. But instead of just surviving, they take that help and they build a multi-million-dollar battle-tested security startup.
Right in the middle of the disaster.
Right. And now they are turning around and selling that proprietary top-tier tech to the very banks that originally loaned them the money.
That is a really perfect way to frame it, because according to recent analysis from early March 2026, Europe's view on Ukraine has fundamentally shifted.
How so?
Well, they no longer see Ukraine just as a victim that needs endless capital. They are now viewing them as an indispensable partner in security production. The integration is it's staggering.
Give me some of the numbers on that.
Sure. So by March 7th, the UK already had 4 joint military repair facilities actively operating.
Wait, operating inside Ukraine?
Inside Ukraine, yes.
Wow.
And a 5th one is on the way. Plus, in late February, the UK opened its first drone factory specifically for Ukraine.
Okay, let's unpack this for a second because that feels like a massive pivot. They aren't just shipping finished tanks or drones over the border anymore.
No, not at all.
They're actually building physical factories in an active war zone.
Exactly. And the scale is growing. Back in February, President Zelensky visited a joint drone production line in Germany, and they're planning to open 10 more of those by the end of this year.
10 more.
Yeah. And just recently, on March 6th, the German defense minister put out a public warning saying that the ongoing war in the Middle East shouldn't overshadow Ukraine's air defense needs. Europe is permanently tying its own security to Ukraine's industrial capacity.
So what does this mean for the global economy, like for an everyday investor watching European defense ETFs?
Well, based on the reports, Ukraine is projected to export billions of dollars in defense tech and services in 2026 alone.
Billions.
Billions with a B. They are even forming a consortium with European allies to make ballistic missile interceptors. Major European defense companies are actively absorbing this battle-tested Ukrainian tech directly into their own supply chains.
Okay, so that's the hardware side, the defense side. But I want to pivot to the second half of this transformation, which I think is almost more fascinating.
The digital side.
Yes, the digital state. There is this national app in Ukraine called Diia, D-I-I-A.
Right.
And for everyone listening, imagine if your local DMV, the IRS, City Hall, and like a literal emergency survival kit were all smashed together into one perfectly functioning app on your iPhone.
It's an incredible piece of software. If you look at the data from late 2025, Diia has over 23 million users.
Which is a huge chunk of their population.
Exactly. And it offers over 150 different government services and 30 official digital documents. But you have to remember, it's not just for convenience like we have here in the US. It's designed for societal survival and resilience.
Yeah, because if a physical government building is destroyed, the state still has to function.
Precisely. The data even highlights that the app allows for legally binding online marriages.
I remember seeing that. Time magazine actually recognized that as a notable invention back in 2024, didn't they?
They did. When you have hundreds of thousands of people deployed to the front lines, you need a secure way to keep families legally connected despite the war. It's a completely resilient digital infrastructure.
But they didn't stop there, right? The recent analysis talks about this evolution from a digital state to an agentic state.
Yes, and this is where the tech sector is really paying attention. In September 2025, they launched Diia.ai,
Okay.
which is the world's first national AI agent.
So explain the difference for us. What makes it an agent and not just a chatbot?
Good question. A chatbot gives you advice. It tells you where to find a form. An AI agent actually executes the task for you.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it goes out and does the administrative heavy lifting, and they are building this by blending civilian and military AI using what are called open-weight models.
Like Google's Gemma model, right?
Exactly. By using open-weight models like Gemma, they can securely train the AI on their own highly classified data, and they are partnering with major data analytics companies like Palantir to process all this chaotic wartime information.
So what is the bottom line here for the listener? How should an investor view this?
The takeaway is you shouldn't just look at Ukraine as a rebuilding charity case anymore.
Right.
You need to watch the European defense ecosystem that's licensing their tech and keep an eye on these resilient gov-tech or government tech companies rising out of this.
GovTech, okay.
But a quick dose of reality from the reports: don't confuse economic integration with political integration. Full political integration into the EU is still facing a lot of skepticism from countries like France and Germany. It's what the analysis calls selective acceptance.
Meaning they want the industry and the tech, but not the political union just yet.
You nailed it. It's strictly business for now.
That makes total sense. All right, let's shift gears to our second topic, the U.S.-India Balancing Act.
This one is really interesting.
It is, because if you just glance at the headlines regarding current U.S. policy under the Trump administration, it looks super confusing.
It does seem contradictory at first.
But when you break it down, it actually makes perfect economic sense.
It's a masterclass in transactional diplomacy. To understand it, you have to split it into the short-term leniency and the long-term boundaries.
Okay, give us the short-term situation first.
According to recent reports, the U.S. has granted Indian oil refiners a 30-day waiver.
A waiver for what?
To continue buying Russian oil as long as it was shipped by March 5th. This waiver runs until April 4th, 2026.
Okay, wait. That seems to go completely against the strict global sanctions we've been seeing.
Right.
To put this in everyday terms, it's kind of like a strict parent who puts the whole family on a tight financial diet, right?
Yeah.
But then the family car breaks down in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And the parent just pulls out the emergency credit card because, look, you just need to get home.
That is exactly what's happening. And the why is purely practical crisis management.
Walk us through the geography of it.
So the ongoing war involving Iran has severely disrupted Middle Eastern oil supplies. And India is highly vulnerable here because 40% of their oil imports rely on passing safely through the Strait of Hormuz.
Which is a huge global choke point.
Huge. If that choke point gets squeezed, India gets desperate. They start bidding up oil prices everywhere else, which spikes the global price.
And if the global price spikes...
it hits the American consumer right at the gas pump.
Ah, there it is.
Exactly. U.S. Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent allowed the short-term stopgap exception to prevent massive inflation from hitting Americans. It's localized leniency to protect U.S. domestic interests.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting, though.
Yeah.
Because while the administration is being super lenient on oil today to keep gas prices down, they are putting up incredibly strict, massive walls when it comes to long-term trade and tech.
This is the long-term strategy, and we saw it clearly stated by U.S. Deputy Secretary of State Christopher Landau at the Resina Dialogue in New Delhi.
What did he say?
He stated point blank that India will not be the next China.
Wow, that's direct.
Very direct. The U.S. is basically saying they aren't going to make the historical mistake of offering unfettered access to American markets, capital, and technology just to accidentally build up a massive future competitor.
So it's a hard pivot to the America First economic strategy.
Exactly. It's about prioritizing U.S. jobs and maintaining absolute technological supremacy. Practically, the reports show this means very strict controls on H-1B and STEM visas.
Because those visas are how a lot of highly specialized tech talent comes into the U.S., right?
Right. By restricting them, the U.S. ensures that the intellectual property, the innovation, and the high-paying jobs physically stay inside American borders.
Okay, so to synthesize this for everyone listening, the U.S. is essentially looking at India and saying, look, we will help you out of a jam today with this oil waiver so our own inflation doesn't spike. But we are absolutely not handing you the keys to our tech empire for tomorrow.
That is the perfect summary. And we see this horse trading happening in physical trade right now, too.
Oh, with the tariffs.
Yes. Based on the data, the U.S. just slashed tariffs on India from 50% all the way down to 18%.
Which is a massive cut. That's a huge deal.
It is, but it wasn't a freebie. In exchange for that cut, India is forced to buy significantly more American energy, defense equipment, and tech. It's a highly managed, totally transactional relationship.
Wow. So if I'm an everyday investor, how should I view India's market right now?
You really have to discount the idea that India is just an independent, infinite growth market.
Because their ceiling is being managed.
Exactly. Their economy is deeply tied to U.S. strategic conditions now. Since Indian tech companies won't get the same free pass to the U.S. consumer market that China got 20 years ago, investors might want to start discounting Indian tech valuations.
That makes a lot of sense.
And as that oil waiver showed us, their underlying energy structure is still incredibly vulnerable to shipping choke points.
Right. If Hormuz closes, their economy freezes.
Precisely.
This has been such an eye-opening deep dive. To kind of zoom out and summarize the overarching theme for you today, we are moving far away from the era of simple, borderless globalization.
We really are.
Economic growth today is all about these highly specific, highly conditional partnerships. Whether it's Europe conditionally absorbing Ukrainian defense tech while keeping them at arm's length politically, or the U.S. carefully managing India's growth ceiling to protect American interests. It's a completely different playbook.
It is. And, I want to leave the listener with a final provocative thought to mull over, connecting both of these topics.
I love these. Let's hear it.
Consider that Ukrainian agentic state AI model we talked about.
The Diia app.
Right. Now, what happens when battle-tested, AI-driven digital governance becomes their primary export?
Oh, interesting.
Could the software running your local city hall or managing your personal data one day be based on an AI system forged in the middle of a European war? Especially if a country like India, which is being locked out of U.S. tech, decides to bypass Washington and just buy their digital infrastructure directly from Ukraine.
Oh, man. That is a fascinating scenario. If the U.S. closes the door, these emerging markets are just going to find a new tech exporter.
Exactly.
Well, you have definitely given us a lot to think about today. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive and breaking down the data. And to everyone listening, don't forget to subscribe and hit that like button.